Hey, all you happy lost souls. If you're new to the channel, thank you for finding it. Please subscribe, spread the word if you're into artifacts, if you find your own. I'm in southeast Pennsylvania, about 15, 20 miles outside of Philly. And mostly all the artifacts you see here come from the Pennypack, Wissahickon, and the Chamonix streams. For the purposes of this video, all the artifacts really come out of one site in the Pennypack, a couple sites. We're going to, in this video is kind of like a big breakthrough, big realization of what was going on at these quarries. These quarry sites have been used again for thousands and thousands of years. Evidence of stone tools that show stylistic tendencies of 60 to 100,000 years, ago. And then you get more Solutrean, thinner type stuff. Now, all the stuff you see here, I found in about a half hour yesterday at one of the sites, and I put up a few clips earlier in the video of the site, quick little walkthroughs. I got to get better footage of these sites. But all kinds of different tools. This one's neat because you can really see the patina on it still. Even like found a big tomahawk head. See the notching, and then you also see the patina and how it was edged out along the edges there. Now, I have videos up about the lost silver mines of southeast Pennsylvania, but what these groups were quarrying before the silver, along with all the good agates and the stones, they were after this stuff. We can call this quicksilver or cinnabar, elements of mercury oxide, and they were after this beautiful red in here. And some of it gets so pressurized, it gets opulated. So you get opal with the cinnabar, and you get these beautiful reddish, dark crystals. Here's a piece of mercury oxide pretty much by itself. If you lick your finger, you can kind of see the red and like reddish coming out in there. Now here's what's interesting. This is the same site where we find all those shit. Just kicked the bucket of water I was using to clean everything. The site where we find all these crazy soapstone finds. I did a video called like artifact efficacy. Of course, we were down there for about an hour, and we found a bunch of soapstone tools yesterday too. But this one was really neat because I wanted to purposely go back there and pick up all of the different pieces of cinnabar that I found that they were quarrying and that they were making tools out of, and that they were even making like snakehead effigies out of, and this is this honing tool. You can see for smoothing the soapstone tool, but you can see the fingerprints of vermilion pigment that got stained into it. So that's what all these crazy hammers and stuff's for. Look, I mean, they're even pulling bigger pieces out. You got vermilion, you got cinnabar running through feldspar, and silver in this too. So the stuff's literally everywhere. Like I said, I was back there for no more than, I don't know, an hour yesterday. I found all the cinnabar without looking too hard, and some of it's just beautiful. Like you can just see the red running through it. This stuff forms at hot pools, hot springs, mineral springs, and that's what these quarry sites are. And some of them are just massive. The stuff's pouring out of vents in the earth, thermally heated vents, because the Pennypack again runs on that fault line. And these dark holes that look like they go to nowhere, these have what's been quarried and pulled out, and almost pulled out of the water towards the surface as they're pulling all this rock out of where these hot springs are. Now, the hot springs themselves, super, you can see like all the metals that it produces. You get different golds and stuff, laced golds running through the agates, the canfoldites, um, but mainly this beautiful high grade um, cinnabar, which is so important because they would crush this up and they would make vermilion, which is like a red war paint, or just a red paint that was so important, not to just the Native Americans, but literally we have evidence that ochre, the pigment made from this that is used to cover bodies in ancient times when they're buried, has been used in paint and in practices going back to things we find 350,000 years old. So again, it doesn't do much to help date who was after this stuff, because it's important for a very long time. You even get like preforms made out of it. Inside there's the telltale sign, of the red sign of the mercury oxides. He is running through the rock everywhere back there. This is even a tool. This has been flaked along the edges. So this is more valuable than gold. So not only was it a commodity for times, these hot springs became worshipped because this red pigment represented fertility, life, blood, protection, death, war, birth. It was used in different types of baptism rituals. Not Christian baptisms, but different rites of passages where red was expressed. It was made into this, mixed with different greases and made into this ointment that was great for wounds. It's great at keeping bugs off of the sun off of people. It was the high-tech sunscreen, so it had a lot of useful properties as well. Cinnabar can be, it's toxic because it's mercury based in powder form. The ore can't hurt you or anything. You can make beautiful jewelry out of it. It's actually kind of valuable to this day still. But again, it's very hard to tell who was after this. The Solutreans were doing their thing with all this beautiful stone, and you can see like these beautiful different stone pieces and the artifacts they flaked out of here. And you see these crazy little files and these hooks. Very, very Solutrean, but then you see stuff that's like a warlike tomahawk or celt that's much younger, more Paleo-Indian. So these were obviously being utilized, and the ochre was important for a long time. I mean, the cinnabar. The cinnabar from around here, as long with these paleogorskite clays, which have cinnabar, mercury oxides, sulfur, copper sulfates. You can get a lot more copper sulfate in some of this greener stuff with the mercury. And a lot of this has silver running through it. This is also known as quicksilver. So this is what was being mined, and I think during the process of mining all this quicksilver, you're bound to find silver, because a lot of the process for the cinnabar turning red, the mercury turning red, is from heat and running into silver oxide. So naturally. And we know this because they're found on the periodic table together. But these springs, or these hot springs, obviously worshipped for an extremely long period of time. And it seems that the stone and the material was taken from here, given to them by the gods of the underworld, the ground, coming out of these hot springs that they venerated and worshipped. It's almost like they're paying a toll or giving back something to this god, or giving back their weapons of war in which they blessed from this area. Or perhaps these areas were obviously also under high conflict because of their resource. This was like currency. People don't realize in Mesoamerica how vast the trade networks were. A lot of this cinnabar made its way all the way down to South America, used in making Mayan blue and their red pigment. We do know the levels of cinnabar and mercury oxide at Mayan sites is like 20 to 30% higher than it should be, and there's just not a lot of this type of stuff down there. We know already that like the paleogorskites to make the blue Mayan blue have been taken from South and North Carolina, and even as far as the Schuylkill. And I'm not sure the exact scientific or isotopic test they use to determine the exact sources of these things, but you'd have to look into the Mayan blue type stuff. But this is just yesterday at one of these sites, and the big breakthrough is really, this is what people are after for a really long time, along with all the beautiful stones and other metals that are pouring, literally pouring out of these hot springs. And these deep, dark holes that the Pennypack is named after have been dug out. Some of these could go down, way down, dug out. And the closer you get to that thermal vent, the more crazy elements and minerals and things you're going to find. Willow Grove's been known for its mineral springs since it was found by humans. The other thing we find at these sites, and I bring two of them back because their efficacy, they're like identical. Phallic symbols. Again, signs venerating the fertility, the life-giving aspect of the place. Got a big ghost tree right nearby marking the place out. And these places are in plain sight these days. And I kid you not, like there's dump trucks of stuff. And these big crushing type tools. These hammers that we find everywhere. More hammers down there. These were all used to crush up and to grind up this cinnabar and this quicksilver to get the red pigment out that they wanted. But these sites have a wealth of great tools. Like look at this chert knife right here, and it's still super sharp. And if anyone wants to tell me that was just made naturally and that's not a knife, then they need to get their eyes and their mind reevaluated. But again, I only take the stuff that's extremely obvious. You get a lot of these awesome little Salutrium, like flint little knives down there. Here's a soapstone one. This is an older wedge style knife that was actually pecked out. I love you find like a flint tool here that isn't done yet. You could see that it was beginning to be made as a typical preform. You got the face, the edge work, the flaking, but it was not done. And I love these because you can just really see the work that's needed. And again, these are quarry sites, so most of the finished pieces, the really nice spearheads, the stuff that was complete and not broken and not given for worship, was carried off and used. You know, a lot of these pieces, like in the agates, that are like half worked, and then disregarded. These little knives and these little blades. Here's a little knife. Little razor action there. Get these files and various lengths and things like that. We get all kinds of hooks. And these little tiny files and knife cores and these pokers. With the grip included right there. Again, I don't know what every one of these stone tools is used for because there's so many. I don't know if they're all tools or some of them are effigies. This one's very strange because if you kind of look closely, there are two perfect lines like scored down the middle of this. It's very hard to pick up on the camera. You see them? They're perfectly straight. They're on both sides. Maybe you see it in the dark. See it in the dark? Almost like a line on a notebook was scratched into it. But then this stuff like curves. And I'm wondering if this is some kind of ivory or something that was fossilized. Because it feels like chert, but like it is so condensed. And it's got this crazy slick pitch on the back. And like again, we find a lot of these tools that are very similar at these sites. Here's one that is very close right there. And I think they were used for pressure flaking or for stone tool production of some sort. So you get a lot of older stuff, and then you get stuff that is way newer. It's more warlike. You get stuff that's just a flat out mess up, like a stemmed or shouldered arrow that got screwed up, and never finished. But really, it's this crazy cinnabar, and you can really see how red this vermilion will glow. So they were after that beautiful cinnabar, and stuff's everywhere down there. And it really, it's going to be like a brick red to crystal red, like a ruby, transparent. It can be darker, blackish, reddish, purplish, maroonish. It can have green running through it with it, especially there's a lot of copper sulfates in the area. This one has a lot of that in it. I love the one that's it's like a snake head. You can really see the stuff. See that crystal right there of it, crystal form. And some of these aren't even crushed up; they're just turned into artifacts and venerated. So really nice piece of it by itself, semi-translucent. The clear pieces, like the crystal form pieces, they're worth a lot of money if you can find them. They're hard to find. Crystals of cinnabar. It's usually running through as like a crust or a layer. You got a piece in there that's silver with a cinnabar, and you can see the little patches of cinnabar running through the silver. But this is like edged and worked. And silver is a little hard to identify naturally. It's extremely unstable in its natural form. So a lot of times it just isn't in form. So it's like a black sand. And then what'll happen is it'll get stuck in the quartz like gold, and it'll get caught in limestone. It'll run with mercury oxides and other sulfates and form different amalgamations. But yeah, this is very pretty because you see the white from the silver, and then from oxidizing, and then you can see the red from the cinnabar mercury oxide. This stuff is beautiful, and the vermilion, like, it does have that semi-precious quality. Like when it gets wet or if it gets in different lights, it'll almost change different shades of red, different glows, different hues. But yeah, so maybe silver mines later, but way before silver was being mined, this place is being exploited for the high quality soapstone, and mainly for this red pigment that they used to make vermilion. Like I said, this pigment was worshipped and sacred by many groups, not just the natives, the Greeks, the Romans, the Celts. Every ancient culture, this red color, this vermilion was extremely important. And there's a lot of it back there. And that's what they're using to make these red pigments and stuff that they're making enamels out of. But more importantly, it shows this much deeper, more ancient practice of leaving behind your nicest artifacts, or giving them back to these wells or these springs that are worshipped and venerated. There's probably conflict at different stages around them because of the resources that were pouring out of the ground here. And I'm sure this is like a gateway to the other world. And then on top of that, it's around these vents that are spewing out this lifeblood of the earth, this red pigment that is so crucial to their culture, their economy, their belief system, and their structure. So again, Pennsylvania, this shows this vast network too, probably tied to Cahokia and Mesoamerica of trading and resource. And this Cinnabar mines as well have been cash or a resource or commodity for trade. So that's why you're seeing these vast quarrying operations to gather up this ore at some point and use it in these vast trading networks as an economic form of currency, essentially. So again, we got to get rid of these ignorant notions, and we have to understand how much more complex, more advanced, more socially stratified, more congruent pre-Columbia or pre-contact North America was, and how far it went back. It went back very far. Again, the site's venerated over a long period of time by different people. You get these crazy, beautiful artifacts left at these springs, and they're like left with intent at these sites. And we can only hope that we can get some more answers through research and find out who and when exactly. Because again, these sites were occupied for thousands and thousands and thousands of years, and it is very, very, very likely that multiple groups separated by large amounts of time were after the same stuff. Because, like I said, Cinnabar has been culturally important to humanity for an extremely long time, going back 300, 400,000 years. We've been using this stuff in some form or context as a pigment or dye. But anyways, there'll be better, more extensive videos on this. I just wanted to get this out there because it's a very big find for me, and confirming it by going back to each site and really focusing on what they were extracting, what tools were left behind, the amount of tools. They were doing all kinds of stuff along these hot springs. They were probably using them for ritual bathing. They were probably doing all their stonework around it, because not only you got the Cinnabar, you get all kinds of other volcanic and tectonic type rocks, metals, and volcanic glasses, and different quartzes, and different crystals, and different gemstones, and garnets, and chert layers, and the soapstone and pipestones. So this was like, think of like a vault or a bank, but it's just pouring out of this thing that you already worship, this deep hot spring. It would be like that. That's where the other world is, and who knows, maybe they cremated and put the ashes back into these holes for rituals, or at least left people's most prized tools behind as offerings, or obviously that was happening. But again, these are Cinnabar production sites, really, really going hard after this red pigment that had more value to most Native American groups than gold. So you could certainly gather up a bunch of this, head to the next trading post or village that moved this material further down south to where they were using it in huge quantities and didn't have access to it in huge quantities. The paleogorskites, the mercury oxides, and things like that to make these red and blue pigments. But anyways, please subscribe if you're new. Please give it a like. Please spread the word. I love you all. Stay safe. And thanks, y'all. Happy Lost Souls. Subscribe. Have a great one. Have a blessed one.